What's up, everybody? This is Hall of Fame wide receiver Terrell Owens here, a.k.a. T.O. Get your popcorn ready. Do a favor. Leave my guy Connor a 5-star rating after the show. Listen to it. Give him some feedback. And also, if you want to listen to my podcast as well, check it out. Subscribe, share. You don't need to leave a 5-star rating. We're 5-star. I'm 5-star all the time. My podcast is called Get Your Popcorn Ready with T.O. and Hatch. Again, check out both of those podcasts. And hey, check it out, listen, and subscribe.
Okay, everyone, welcome to Eagles Brawl of the Brawl Network. It's Jonny Page here, flying solo for the first ever time. It's a Wednesday night. I'm here in London. It's a bit difficult with time differences for me to give a few takes on the game with Connor over there in the States. So I'm going to jump on solo, give a really quick All-22 recap. Try not to make it too depressing of the Eagles, the Rams. I'll try and keep it to like 15, 20 minutes. Any feedback, please do tweet me or tweet at Eagles Brawl and let me know how you found this, okay? Because going solo is very weird. Talking into a microphone for the first time ever is very, very strange. So I'm going to kick it off and I'm going to keep things very simple. I'm just going to go through each position, basically. Going to start with offense, going to say what I thought since I've watched the game. I've watched it back twice now, sadly. And then I will also go through defense as well. We'll go through each position. So I'm going to start with the big talking point this week, which is Carson Wentz. And I have so many things to say about Carson Wentz that is not really the time to talk about it now. I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I'm not hitting the reset button or anything. I think Carson Wentz is still a quality starter in this league, and I've always maintained that belief. I think he has been since he entered the NFL. I do think, however, he is clearly off his game at the moment. I don't think he was off all game. I think he made some good throws. I think at times he was in rhythm, but he seems to either force the ball, as we saw with JJ, I think, a Whiteside's interception when he forced it into him, or miss some routine throws, and the Jackson screen, the Ertz out come to mind. A couple to Sanders as well. However, to defend Carson Wentz, I do think it's worth talking about this coaching staff in general and the way the passing game is running at the moment. I don't have the numbers, but the Eagles were in 1-2 personnel a lot against the Rams. And while I am a fan of 1-2 personnel, I think it has its place. I do think the Eagles are struggling still, which is no surprise, from a lack of wide receiver talent. And comparing it to the Rams on the other side of the ball, looking at what Kupp and what Woods did to our defensive backs, I think Jackson is obviously very good. Rager is still learning. I think there were snaps when he struggled to get open. And behind them, it's very limited. You've got Greg Ward, who is fine. He's a jag in the slot. Hightower, we didn't really see much of. He looks like a deep threat only at this point, and JJ, I think, on Whiteside just isn't very good, I don't think. The way they run their offense at the moment is very much dink and dunk. It takes a long time to score. There's a lot of short, quick plays, a lot of running game. If you take the drive, actually, that went through the back-breaking interception where we tried to squeeze the ball to JJ, I think, on Whiteside, that drive in general was actually a very good drive, but it's a lot of dink and dunk. And I think at some point, Doug is going to have to open up the offense and let Wentz be more like the Wentz that we think he can be. I know he wants to limit his turnovers. I know he wants to keep it safe. But at the moment, that offense is just hard to run. And I don't think Wentz is that style of player, to be honest. I think Wentz is a deep ball thrower. He's very good in the intermediate game. And there wasn't enough plays called by Doug on Sunday that allowed him to show that part of his game off. I think even going back to the week before with the Redskins, he hit Rager on a beautiful deep throw. He hit another very, very good ball to Rager deep. If Rager didn't slow down, it would have worked. And he also narrowly missed Deshaun Jackson. And if you come in 2 out of 3 on those really deep balls, I think that is acceptable, to be completely honest. So I think the coaching staff's got to help Wentz. I think they've got to let him be a little bit more outside of structure, get him on the move more, things we've all said. I don't think the offense was bad in terms of the way Doug designed it on Sunday. I think they had some nice concepts. I think they've done well to get Rager in space a couple of times. They nearly got Deshaun Jackson in space, or a screen. But I think, unfortunately, they're limited by their wide receiver talent. And they're also limited by the fact that the quarterback is clearly not playing great at the moment. And I don't think the sky is falling in. I don't think I expect Wentz to get better. There is obviously some mechanics need to be fixed. I'm going to push back on one narrative I keep hearing this week as well, which is that Wentz is uncoachable and doesn't listen to coaching. If you look at the way Wentz played that game, he was very, very consistent in terms of taking what the defense gave him, getting the ball out quickly, arguably too quickly at times. So I'm not sure it's a case of being uncoachable. I doubt he's going in there and saying, I'm not listening to you about mechanics, I'm doing it my way. I think it's just a case of, in the heat of the moment when bullets are flying, unfortunately, your mechanics can go back and they can reset if you haven't worked on them hard enough in the off-season. And I'm not making excuses for him because it hasn't been a proper off-season, but it's possible that the coaching staff has not focused on that side of his game enough, or he personally hasn't taken enough control of that side of the game. Anyway, this isn't a Wentz podcast, so just my thoughts there. I thought he played an okay game. I don't think it was abysmal, but he does miss too many routine throws, but I would love to see this offense allow him to be a bit more dangerous on the move and also let him play outside of structure a little bit more. But we'll talk about this in a bit. I think they're limited because they're receivers. Moving on to the running game, I thought Sanders was very good for his first game back. Sanders actually reminds me of Wentz a little bit, in that Sanders is that kind of player as well that will never do what's expected all the time. So he'll miss some holes and you'll wonder why he'll bounce it outside, but he's just naturally so gifted that he's able to do that. I thought he looked very good in the passing game. He ran the ball well, so no problems there. I thought Scott played pretty well too in limited action. The receivers and tight ends, I didn't think any of them played particularly well. I thought Deshaun was probably the best of the bunch, and it's a shame they didn't try and get him deep more. But Deshaun had some very good out routes when they got him in motion. Rager was up and down. There was a couple of times when he didn't beat press on key third downs. And I think, to be honest, they're just asking too much of him. I think Rager, in an ideal world, is a movement Z. You get him away from press coverage, you get him in space, you get him running deep, sort of what Deshaun's done his whole career, but slightly better after the catch, potentially. I think expecting him to walk in day one and be the starting X receiver, which they're doing at the moment, is really tough on him, to be honest, because he didn't face a lot of press at TCU. I think it's asking a lot for a rookie receiver in their second game to be the focal point of an attack. If you compare that to the Cowboys, for example, you look at CeeDee Lamb, he's lining up almost exclusively in the slot. The number one cornerbacks are going to Amari Cooper. Number two cornerbacks on the outside are going to Gallup. I think we're asking, unfortunately, too much from Rager, and I think that's partly because of the way we built the wide receiver position. Tight ends were fine. I think they weren't brilliant. Goddard could have had a couple of difficult catches that you'd maybe like him to bring in, but I thought they'd done their bit. They got open over the middle, and the Rams gave up quite a lot of space in the middle there, and yeah, they were fine. Offensive line I was really happy with. I thought Jason Peters played a lot better than what Twitter was saying. I thought he had a pretty good game. I was really impressed with Herbig. Firstly, the guy is just huge. He jumps off the tape when you watch it because he's just a massive human being. But I thought he got out in space well in the run game. I thought he moved the pocket well. When Pryor came in, I think they struggled a bit more. Pryor was probably the weakest of the bunch. And I think they went to a lot more inside zone. They didn't really want Pryor and Herbig moving on outside zone and stretch plays too much for obvious reasons because they're both giant human beings. But yeah, I thought offensive line was a good performance. I thought Kelsey played well and handled Donald when he had to. I thought Sam Arlu played well when he was in. I thought Lane Johnson was Lane Johnson, basically. So good signs on the offensive line. I think I expect the whole offense, to be honest, to do better against the Bengals. I just think it's always going to be an inconsistent passing game, partly because Wentz is sort of an inconsistent player, but also just because I still don't believe the receiving talent is good enough around him. I think you can't be in 1-2 personnel as frequently as they were. You need to spread out defenses more. You need to take deep shots. And if people like John Hightower aren't ready, then you're asking a really big amount from Deshaun Jackson and Jalen Reagor. And I think they just miss a big body in there, basically. They miss, as much as I didn't like him recently, they miss an Alshon Jeffrey style player who can take those snaps at X, can win on those 3rd and 8 sort of deep in cuts. And even if he's not open, you can sort of target him anyway. Whereas Reagor is still learning the position. Except for that, I thought it was an okay day for the offense as a whole. I don't actually think on second watch, I didn't think the game plan was as bad as I thought live. I thought Doug called a reasonable game. I think Wentz missed a few throws down the field as well, which is where I wonder if they could tell him to be a bit more aggressive. But I don't think it was a disaster by any means. I think on another day, if that interception isn't thrown, Sanders doesn't fumble on the first drive, they could have quite easily put up 25 plus points on a sort of okay Rams defense. Well, pretty good with Aaron Donald. Defense, on the other hand, What can you say about the way the defense went? I'm going to start with the defensive line and get it over with quickly. I thought they were fine. I thought Fletcher Cox and Malik Jackson played pretty well, as you'd expect them to, because they're two of the Eagles' best players. Graham had a few really nice rushes. I thought Josh Sweat, unfortunately, got showed up a bit. I think everything I said about Josh Sweat in my off-season film room piece at the moment looks pretty spot on, if I do say so myself. Third and long, you want him on the pitch. Very dangerous pass rusher. First down, still got a lot to do in the run game. He's very much... he's quite instinctive in terms of that he'll just sort of go towards the ball at times, and he needs to be a little bit more patient and react to what the defense is, what the offense is doing. Let's move on from the defensive line to two positions that I have quite a few takes on, actually, that are maybe not as popular as maybe some other takes and what people have been saying. I didn't think Gary was horrendous after the first few drives, and that's really unpopular, I know. I think he actually got better and grew into the game and started to understand it. I thought TJ Edwards was the best linebacker on the day, and I thought Alex Riley was really, really bad. I thought Riley just didn't seem to understand what the Rams were doing. There's a lot of comments online that say, why is TJ Edwards not playing more when he looks like the best linebacker? The problem is what TJ Edwards does is a very specific thing, which is he's a sort of downfield tackler. He'll make plays in the running game when they're in base. But if you watch a clip I tweeted out yesterday of the way he runs, he doesn't move very smoothly. I don't think you ever want to play TJ Edwards in nickel, or definitely not in dime. I just don't think he's a good enough athlete. I think he's a base linebacker, and I think he's good at what he does. I just think what he does in the modern game is limited. It's really funny, actually, because the Eagles play a lot of 1-2 personnel to target teams' linebackers. And I think the Rams do something similar, and the Eagles' linebackers aren't good enough. So for a team that plays so much 1-2 personnel, I don't know why they devalue the linebacker position like they do. And by the way, before you at me in my mentions, I didn't think Gary was good at all. I just didn't think he was so bad that you bench him and play Sean Bradley, for example. I don't think there is another player on the defense that can play the nickel role, essentially, except for Gary, and people will shout Davion Taylor. So I made my thoughts very clear on the off-season about what I thought of Davion Taylor as a prospect. I think he was a late-round pick. There's a good special teams player with a lot of upside if things go well, but he's nowhere near ready to contribute. And people who think he is need to go and watch his college tape. He was playing a very odd position, sort of a hybrid linebacker, cornerback at times. He is nowhere near ready to start in base. His instincts are just not there yet. However, this is my sort of slight hot take, I think, which I rarely have unless I back it up with film. I think the Eagles' defensive backs were as big of a problem as the linebackers, which some people would disagree with. And I'm going to clarify that. I thought McLeod played well. I thought Jalen Mills played really well, actually. I thought his instincts were good for a player that's new at the position. I thought Slay was fine. I just actually tweeted out a clip before recording this about how I wish Darius Slay was allowed to get closer to the line of scrimmage more, but we know that's the way Schwartz uses his cornerbacks. But I thought Slay was fine. The two I have a problem with, which is a shame because the two players I like, was Maddox and Roby Coleman. Nico Roby Coleman in particular just had a really bad game, just got burned a lot. There was a lot of like 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s. Essentially, they just weren't good enough. Cup is a really good second receiver. Woods is a really good first receiver. And when they were lined up on Roby Coleman or Maddox, they were just better. And in the current league and the way the NFL is set up, when you get into anything 3rd and 8 or under, when you've got receivers of that talent against a team with unfortunately lacking in cornerback talent, it's only going to end one way a lot of times. And Goff was able to consistently pick up those plays on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. Maddox was way off. And the reason why I said there were as big a problem as the linebackers was I thought in the run game they didn't help at all either. I thought there was a lot of times when Maddox got completely confused, where Roby Coleman was all over the place in terms of his run fits. So it was a shame. I didn't think the defensive backs played well at all. Well, I'm saying that 2 of them didn't play well. I thought the other 3 were fine. A little quick note, Schwartz has sort of gone viral this week for saying that he made his scheme too simple. And you know what? Firstly, I respect him for that. I think that's really cool. I think the coach comes out and admits it. I wonder why he kept it simple, whether it's a case of he thinks his team were better. But it was a really interesting change if you get a chance to watch any of the second half from a defensive perspective. I thought at times it worked. So when the Rams sent their receiver in jet motion and the Eagles, rather than having the defensive back follow him, would roll a safety down to follow that wide receiver, and then the cornerback that was in coverage with him would roll and become deep safety. What that did mean, though, although I think Schwartz was right to do this, it did mean that at times you have players like Roby Coleman as a deep safety. So if you remember that, unnecessary roughness penalty, that was where Roby Coleman was the deep safety. And I think he hit like a guy who has not played much deep safety before because he nearly decapitated Robert Woods and was flagged for a helmet-to-helmet hit. So I think there was a learning curve there as well. I know people don't want to hear that because his team should be ready. I don't think the defense, again, like the offense, is awful. I just think both sides of the ball, sadly, what stands out for me more than anything when watching the tape against the Rams is the roster's just not good enough. And I think if you're a competing team, and yes, they've got injuries, but they don't really have injuries at wide receiver position, except Alshon. And for a skill position group, they're not good enough. When there are teams like the Chiefs who Mecole Hardman can't even get on the field, and he'd step in and be one of the Eagles' best weapons instantly. And I think it's the other side of the ball, it's linebackers and cornerbacks. I liked Maddox, and I think he's a good nickel. I don't know if he's an outside corner. I really like Roby Coleman, so I don't really know what's happening there. The fact he only got $1 million on a year concerns me a little bit. Maybe NFL teams were seeing something last year that the Eagles didn't in his tape. And they're also playing Mills and McLeod at safety, who are fine. As I said, I think Mills had a good game, but they're not exactly going to be as good as they can be first few weeks of the season because they've got a lot of learning to do together. And I think combine that with new cornerbacks everywhere, I just don't think the Eagles, unfortunately, are talented enough in certain positions. I don't know what the answer is at linebacker. As I've said, throw TJ Edwards and Davion Taylor and nickel if you want. I just don't think they're good enough already. I think linebacker is going to be a problem. I think the plan of get the defensive line to be so good that your linebackers are hidden is all well and good until you play a team like the Rams who use a ton of motion, who get a ton of outside runs, and you need your linebackers to be able to flow. You need your linebackers to be able to be instinctive and read plays well, and the Eagles were not good enough, unfortunately. That's not a revolutionary take here. It's just what I ended up seeing. So I think overall, the Eagles are struggling a bit. I think they're struggling because they're a not as talented team as maybe we thought they were before the season. I personally knew the wide receiver position and linebacker would be a big issue. I do think, however, that as Rager gets more comfortable, as Hightower gets more comfortable, I think the offense will sort itself out. I expect to see a better performance over the next couple of weeks. I think especially with Sanders back, I think the Eagles will put up points and Wentz will get in a sort of rhythm. I think the problem is the defense. I think teams are going to watch that film and you're going to see a lot of motion. You're going to see a lot of teams trying to confuse the Eagles. I think Schwartz is going to have to do a better job trying to get in the opposing quarterback's head. And I also think they're going to have to do a better job getting the quarterback off of his spot and getting him under pressure, because when you let a guy complete the first 13 passes, it sets him up for a very, very good day, because a lot of quarterback play is about getting the rhythm, especially with quarterbacks like Jared Goff. I think the Eagles need to come out and make sure they start very, very strong against the Bengals. Right, I reckon that's about 20 minutes. It's a very quick one, as Connor would say, quick hits or whatever he calls it. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do. I tweet out some All-22 clips from time to time, when I have the time mainly, on @JonnyPage9. If you have any questions about the Eagles film, please feel free to ask me. And if you enjoyed this, let me know. If you think I could do a different format, please let me know. At the moment, I'll just keep going through the players. Maybe in the future, I'll see if I can combine this with a video of some sort. But yeah, I hope you all have a good day. You're probably listening to this on a Thursday. Take care, everyone. You've been listening to Eagles Brawl of the Brawl Network.